Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Andrew Moran, Sarah Cowgill, Jeff Charles, and Scott Cosenza. And this is the Conservative 5, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. On today's episode, another fine mess you've gotten us into, we delve into why there seems to be unsecured archives floating about in classified madness. Next up, the questions every Second Amendment lover has these days in our segment, Gun Control Psychosis. And then there's the egg, indicative of what's to come in The Incredible Exorbitant Egg. Finally, we top it all off with another episode of Just for Fun. All this and more coming up in this edition of the Conservative 5. How serious is it when government officials mishandle classified documents? Why is Joe Biden's stash any different than, say, Donald Trump's? It seems every time you turn on the news, someone is breaking the classified code of conduct, whatever that is. And anymore, you can't tell the players without a scorecard. Who knows what Joe was thinking, considering Hunter Biden had access to every paper in Daddy's Delaware garage. Jeff Charles, I know you have a snappy retort to explain this mess.
You know, I'm pretty consistent. I mean, when it comes to Trump and Biden, and these documents, I'm not seeing that they're that big of a deal, but everything is political nowadays, so it has to be a big deal. And one thing that I pointed out is that this stuff isn't going to get solved because people only look at this politically. They only care when it's the other guy doing it. So we're going to keep seeing more and more and more of this. And Edward Snowden actually put out a tweet a few days ago where he basically said that there are a lot of issues with these classified systems. You know, when Reality Winner goes to jail for 5 years for one document and leaking that, but then people have boxes of documents and they're protected, there's a two-tier justice system here. So, I mean, unless they burn it all down and figure it out from scratch and figure out, okay, this is exactly how we're going to handle classified documents, we're just going to keep seeing more of this. So this is just the next political bugaboo or whatever. And in a few days, it'll probably be under the rug.
Sarah, I can't figure out what the protocol is, and I have a feeling the former president and the current president don't know what the protocol is either. I mean, they're finding it everywhere but in the sock drawer.
Well, it is a bugaboo. Where'd that word come from? That's just goofy. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what the classified code of conduct is. I'm not sure anybody in any administration, this far knows what it is. And frankly, I mean, Joe Biden could be hiding documents that detail, swimming naked in the pool in front of female Secret Service agents. I don't know what he's trying to hide, or if he's just going through them.
You're definitely trying to get us banned on the YouTube.
He's not trying to hide anything when he does that, Sarah.
Well, yeah. That's true. I don't know what he's doing. Maybe he just leafs through them and has some kind of fond memories of it. Maybe it's like a scrapbook collection. I don't know what was in Trump's. I don't know what's in Joe Biden's. I don't know why they think they need to take it out of archives or not send it to archives. I don't know. I mean, it's the most ridiculous political point ever. It's not like it's, state secrets where we're going to sell them to China. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Here's my secret theory. My theory is, Scott, that they're all squirreling this stuff away for their big fancy libraries that they're going to someday build. The the vanity libraries that every president has, except for, say, George Washington.
Lisa, I'm actually going to turn the clock back to when we had a classified documents scandal that really did implicate security breaches, and it was Hillary's documents that she had on her unsecured server. And what happened then was the FBI read into the law an intent element that doesn't actually exist in the law. So they basically said, we're not going to go after Hillary because she didn't mean it or have any ill intent. But the classified document laws don't have anything to do with intent. I actually think that's a bad idea. But if you're going to enforce them at all, not enforcing them against Hillary, who really did have sensitive documents on a server that was exposed to foreign access. I tend to agree with Mr. Charles that, it's a nothing burger if they're in Trump's locked Mar-a-Lago closet, and they're a nothing burger if they're in Biden's locked garage and in his trunk, maybe. I don't know. But it is two standards. And the standard is that when it can be enforced against Donald Trump, the law is a cudgel. And when it's, against Hillary or Biden, it's some kind of buoy for them.
I've been noticing, Andrew, that the press seems to be running pretty hot on this and shoving Biden a little bit under the bus, which is interesting because, we expect them to do that with Trump, not so much for Biden. What's your take?
Linda, let me tell you something. Because I have classified documents in a box next to my Corvette, it doesn't mean that I have documents that are classified. Not a joke. Now, Joey Boy can tell Joe Biden's America that I'm trustworthy. But seriously, this is the greatest. This is one of my favorite stories. It's only early 2023. It's quickly my favorite story of the year. And I want to say the media is throwing Biden under the bus because the media is going to great length to differentiate between Trump's story and Biden's story. One thing I saw recently was, I think it was CNN, they had a split screen talking about the differences. And one of them was a complete lie and said that Biden only accidentally had 20 documents. But the justice officials have never actually openly declared how many documents that Joe Biden has. So I think that's just one aspect of it. And of course, with the whole National Archives, you're right about, these presidents always putting it into the library. One thing, too, the National Archives knew Trump had it in his Mar-a-Lago. And, Trump actually even invited FBI officials to, take the subpoena documents. But for whatever reason, maybe Mr. Cosenza can talk about this, that, they raided his Mar-a-Lago retreat. So overall, I think the media is still playing defense for Biden. And, they're probably just hoping another thing isn't found in his colon, as you shared in our private Slack.
Scott, you want to put your 2 cents?
I just want to say, don't forget about the posed photo shoot with the covers of the documents that said top secret or whatever, that they then took for the purpose of leaking. So it wasn't that this was an evidentiary document that was then somehow leaked the photo of. No, the photo was conceived of to leak to damage Donald Trump politically. That's what we've had from the FBI and the DOJ in the Trump instance. So in every way, shape, or form, when we compare these two things, Biden's conduct seems to be worse than Trump's. That's the distinction.
Well, it's interesting you said that because, Jeff, at the beginning, the media, the legacy media, was using the Democratic talking point, which always has 2 words. One of their talking points was without evidence. They use that everywhere. This was significant differences. Significant differences exist between Trump's and Biden's documents. Are you buying it?
No, I mean, I even read a CNN report saying much what Andrew was saying, that it was so different, but so that Biden's isn't that bad and Trump's is the worst thing ever. I'm not buying it. Like, it doesn't make much sense at all. I mean, you can point out differences between how both of them have handled it, but at the end of the day, they both did the same thing. And you could argue that Biden's was worse because he had documents in multiple places. Some that where it wasn't even secured. Oh, it was in my garage next to my Corvette. It was fine. Trump at least had his at Mar-a-Lago in one room, and nobody was getting in there. So there really is no way to say that one is worse than the other. I mean, we can quibble over these little details. The bottom line is that Trump and Biden did the exact same thing. The reason they're mad about it is because they were planning on using this whole Mar-a-Lago thing against Trump politically, like Scott said. But now that Biden has come, Biden basically blew that out of the water because they can't do as much with it now.
Remember what Saul Alinsky said? Saul Alinsky said that
Hunter had a key to the garage. That's the biggest problem. Hunter could get in. Hunter.
I'm sure Corn Pop could have gotten in too.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, well, Saul Alinsky, remember what he said? He said that accuse your opponent of what you were guilty of doing. So I think this is a great personification of that quote.
Sarah,
let me just say one other thing, which is that Trump's claim to be able to declassify documents is actually superior to that of Joe Biden's, because Trump was president, and before he had the documents, Biden had not been president. So even legally speaking, I think Trump has a superior claim.
Sarah, I'm going to give you the last word as our longest running political person here on the panel. Is this going to end up mattering a lot, a little, not at all, for Biden first and then for Trump?
For Trump, I'm going to say no. I don't think it's going to be his biggest hurdle heading into 2024, only because now, it seems that other people have done it. And so the media has had to, drop back and kind of figure out where to go with this. The other thing is, I don't think the media is very keen on having Joe Biden run again for president. I think this will damage him, and they will, start pulling the reins back to see if he can't change this team up a little bit some way or somehow.
Well, I
That's just my
absolutely agree
perspective.
with you. Absolutely agree with you on that second point. Well, everyone, you heard our full range of thought on the document stash. We'll keep you updated as more things come to light. Thanks, panel. As time drags on with this administration, the anti-gun psychosis is building. States are going rogue. Laws passed, laws rescinded. It's just a hot mess out there if you're trying to keep up with the latest. And it really is hard to keep up, especially when the ATF just enacted the most punitive anti-gun rule in a generation. And I'm not exaggerating here. We have Scott DeCosenza, our legal eagle, to explain.
It's a hot mess. Let's take the ATF rule first. The ATF rule says that a common accessory to the tune of just under 10 million, I think, is the latest in terms of estimates that people have, called a pistol brace, is actually not what they said it was earlier, and requires a special regulation similar to what goes on when somebody tries to register an actual machine gun. And people have 3 months or 120 days from when they announce the rule to either register their guns, destroy them, or turn them in if they have,
Do you have
one of
a
these pistol braces.
pistol brace to show us, or can you explain?
Lisa, I can't. How dare you suggest that I would possess something like this?
He had one, but he
I
lost it
can't
in a
even
voting
imagine.
accident.
I'm reporting on this matter. I don't have any personal experience with
Can
these
you
things.
explain what it looks like?
Basically, it is a miniaturized sort of stock. And they started off as an aid for handicapped people who only had the use of one arm or maybe partial use of their second arm, for them to be able to actually kind of strap the firearm to their forearm or their wrist and stabilize it. And it was cool. It's a small way to have a big caliber gun, and it is tactical. It's the newest and greatest thing, and the market responded by buying these things in leaps and bounds. And the
you've
ATF,
seen them in former times. You don't, of course.
and to be clear, that the ATF wrote letters to gun manufacturers. Gun manufacturers, the rules are so dense, and they're not laws; they're typically rules, right? They're part of the Code of Federal Regulations that the ATF basically decides what goes and what doesn't go. So these firearm manufacturers, they send in a plan. They say, we'd like to manufacture this thing. Is this okay? Does this comport with our current laws and regulations? And the Firearms and Technology branch of the ATF responds and says, yes, it's okay. You can manufacture and sell this. It's legal today to do so. They do it. And then exactly right. And it's outrageous. We also have had a spate of, it's the new year and the new legislature, and there's lots of new laws that have come on board that are, hostile to gun owners. Basically, if you look at the, in the deep, I almost forgot there is a deep red or deep blue. In the deep blue states, that's where these things are happening. And we've had 2 rulings from the Supreme Court, one this week and one last week, and both of them have declined to act to block these new rules on an emergency basis. Now, one of them was accompanied by a note by Justice Alito, agreed to by Justice Thomas, and they basically said, hey, don't get excited. This isn't about whether we think these are good laws. We're just letting the process play out, which I think is a positive thing, that the Supreme Court is less likely to act on their emergency docket and more in regular order. So that's sort of where things are in a nutshell.
Now, Sarah, we're not going to say for security reasons where exactly in red country you are, but you are in red country. And
Deep red.
How is this going down?
Not
Or are
well.
Is everybody aware of it? I mean, is this?
Oh yes. I may live in Hooterville, but I have a bunch of educated rednecks around me, and I can tell you this: they're very 2A strong, and they follow everything that's going on. They also like to follow, especially Scott, when it comes to the gun issues, or Jim on Liberty Nation. They are in tune with everything that's going down. And even the 1 or 2 liberals in our area, which couldn't really be called progressives or real liberals, but they're carriers, and they are up in arms over this. It's like No one's taken my guns. I may have voted for Joe Biden, but nobody's taken my guns. And in a deep red state where I live, and I'm saying deep red and in the middle of nowhere, everyone carries. Everyone carries. People carry in church here. So you've got, a whole demographic that is keyed up and kept up. And that's a dangerous thing when you got smart rednecks out there running around.
Jeff, you joined the group of people who are bearing arms a while back. I remember you sharing that with us on C5. It's getting really difficult to understand when you're complying and when you're not complying with all these various rules now that have to do with firearms.
Yeah, it's almost like it's by design, isn't it? Like they put all these rules into place to give the state more power to crack down on your right to bear arms. And this particular issue, really, I'm tired of these people. I am. How many people are dying in gang violence by people using pistol braces? The vast majority of gun violence is committed by people who obtain their guns illegally, and it's happening in urban neighborhoods where you have gang and drug violence. That's where most of it is happening. Banning pistol braces will not save a single life, and they know this. Yeah, I mean, you've got Illinois passing an assault weapons ban, and thank God you have some sheriffs who are out there saying, nope, we're not going to enforce it. But that's what they're trying to do here. And you know what? Here's what this is about. I tweeted this yesterday. When people trying to ban certain types of weapons or guns or accessories aren't trying to save lives, they're trying to make people feel good. They're trying to make it look like they're doing something about this issue when they really aren't, and they're really trying to stoke a lot of anti-gun sentiment so that they can continue this further. If they did manage to ban assault weapons, that's just a step in the next direction would be to ban handguns as well. They want to disarm responsible, law-abiding people, which only makes criminals even more emboldened. I had this debate with a guy yesterday, and he's just so terrified at the idea of regular people owning guns. I was like, no, you need to be afraid of the people who get them illegally and then victimize those people. You're taking away their right to defend themselves. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Jeez, Jeff, how much caffeine have you had today?
None. Wait until I get some coffee.
This man's fired up.
I don't think it's about making people feel good. I think it's more about, disarming the population to, easier to impose tyrannical government on the people. Maybe
either the government can fear the people or the people can fear the government. You can't.
But now we're really going to get banned for sure.
But this whole anti-gun, sentiment isn't just in the United States. You look up here in Canada, Justin Trudeau, he's been cracking down on guns especially over the last year. He recently imposed that national freeze on handgun sales. He's trying to ban hunter rifles, which is actually getting great opposition from members of his own party and the First Nations, which is a huge lobby now in Canada. So, this whole anti-gun is just part of the globalist initiative of trying to, enslave the population and ensure that they're easier to control and that they don't fight back against these authoritarian
I speak Canadian, so I'll let you know that First Nations mean what we would say Native Americans, just if you didn't know.
Well, hey,
remember, Joe Biden said we would need
if you're CBC, it's all First Nations. They constantly say First Nations.
I know. I was translating your Canada-ese into American English.
That's excellent.
But remember, Joe Biden said that we would need F-15s to fight against the government. So we might as well just let them take our guns since we can't get F-15s and be like Tom Cruise flying them.
That's one of the most ridiculous arguments because look at, not to go too much in foreign policy, look at Taliban in Afghanistan, look at the Al-Qaeda in Iraq. I mean, it's such a ridiculous argument to even suggest that. And how's that going to, appeal to anti-Second Amendment saying, oh, I can just kill you whenever I want? That's going to encourage more people to adopt gun ownership.
Scott, just last word since you're our resident specialist on this.
Go
ahead.
I expect that the appellate courts and the Supreme Court are going to rule in a manner that reflects the people who appointed them, to wit, a pro-gun result is what I expect from the High Court.
You anticipated my very question. To keep and bear arms. It's getting more difficult every doggone day. You keep the faith, and we'll keep you posted. The price of a dozen eggs has everyone clucking on social media. Yes, Henny Penny, you were right all along. The sky is falling, and it's past time to squawk about it. Well, whether the sky falls or not, the price of eggs is a sign of the times when it comes to the economy. How will we do it? Oh, Andrew, are you and Henny Penny on the same page here?
Well, first, I'd like to say that I'm ecstatic to be talking about this subject.
We have to count the number of really bad egg puns we have here, too.
We have several.
No, don't
I got 'em all
don't
from
egg them
Andrew.
on. Don't egg them on.
Okay, we're up to 2. Who's keeping the list?
No yolk. It's just no yolk. Come on.
Oh, 3.
It's
And
exciting.
Andrew-
I'm saying it's an exciting subject.
We're already having a shell of a time with this segment.
Oh, my goodness. 5. All right, Andrew, you
Okay,
hit it.
so-
You're our economics guy.
So there are many factors impacting the reason why egg prices have soared 60% over the past year. And, now the national average is close to about $4 a carton. If you're in California, it's above 7. The first is, of course, production costs and input costs. You have skyrocketing diesel prices, which has soared about 30% over the past year. Animal feed is up 8%. Utilities are up across the board. Labor costs have increased. You have labor shortages throughout the egg producing sector. You look at some of the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers, and you see that actually employment has steadily fallen since 2015. So they don't have enough manpower to produce enough and to support the demand. And of course, the immediate headline grabber is the avian flu. That thing, which is lethal and contagious, has killed about 43 million egg-laying hens over the last year. So whether it's for pasture-raised eggs or generic bred eggs, there's not enough supply to meet this demand. So of course you can have skyrocketing price increases, and most economists and industry observers say there's not going to be any relief for another 3 to 6 months. So you got to pay more at the supermarket for your eggs.
But if you had to lay a percentage on it, oops, I didn't mean to say lay. But anyway, all right. If you had to put a percentage on it, how much would you say is the bird flu, and how much is it economic? Is it like a 50-50 thing, or is it 75 the bird flu and 25?
Well, I mean, if you speak to most market analysts, everyone keeps talking about the avian flu. So perhaps that would be the main cause of the factor. But I mean, you speak to a lot of farmers. I mean, I recently saw this interview with one farmer over in the UK, and he was talking about how one of the big issues facing producers and why they're not producing enough is that supermarkets are not paying the egg farmers more for their products. So the price of everything goes up, but it's not accounting for how much egg farmers have to invest in their products. So supermarkets are partly to blame. But then, of course, they're trying to protect their shoppers from even more price inflation on the food front. So I mean, this is a complex situation, and I don't think it's just primarily avian flu. It's a myriad of factors. And then, of course, if you want to go into the Austrian economic side of the thing, you could say that there's more units of currency that was pumped into the broader economy that's required more dollars to pay for the same amount of goods, which I'm sure Scott will know about, or Jeff, who I will say he's studying economics, so perhaps he'll know as well.
All right, Jeff, I'll let you have at the egg story here.
Well, I haven't studied up on eggs in general, but I have been looking more into this stuff. And to me, it's just whether it's Biden's fault or Democrats' fault or not, it is part of the overall political conversation. So I'm looking more at the politics of this stuff. And, the economic issues were not enough to give that red wave that people were expecting. But as things get worse, I mean, Joe Schaefer wrote a piece about this a while ago. For Democrats to really suffer, it's probably going to have to get worse. And this may be an indication of that. I don't want to be blackpilled, but at the same time, when we're looking forward to 2024 and both Democrats and Republicans are figuring out who they're going to run, if these issues persist and if they do get worse, if people continue paying more for eggs and other types of groceries, for gas, then there actually could be a reckoning for the Democrats in the not too distant future.
Sarah, unless I'm mistaken, a while back it was bacon that was skyrocketing. Now it's eggs. Do we have a Biden war on breakfast?
Sounds like it. Sounds like we need to start going with the oatmeal option. At the local.
Buy those frozen concentrated
Greasy
orange
food.
juice futures.
Yeah, no.
fake egg
I'm blessed to live in a rural community, and the eggs at the local stores are probably $5.99 for an extra large dozen, which isn't as horrible or as good as some places, But the blessing I have is there are chickens everywhere. You just walk across the street and get a dozen eggs. Farmers come in all the time and sell them, and the farm fresh eggs, picked up out of the nest yesterday are going for about $4 a dozen. So I think it kind of depends on your environment. You know, when you don't have fuel costs, you know, that fuel surcharge is going up, you know, hugely everywhere, getting things from farmers to the local stores. So, you know, you've got a lot of things in play, which is the good reason for living in a nice local rural area. That's the good reason.
You know, Scott, you and I have been grocery shopping a time or two. And, you know, it just seems to me that I was telling somebody the other day that I can't go guilt-free egg shopping anymore. It's like, do you want cage-free or do you want to pay $5 for
As we were talking about, I was just listing the different things that now they get you to upcharge like $2 each. There's local, organic, small family farms, and pasture raised. And that bumps the pre-egg crisis rate up to like $8, basically.
I feel so guilty, you know, buying non-cage free eggs.
Absolutely.
Now
Boy, I know what I'm bringing you guys next time I visit the neighborhood.
Farm fresh eggs.
There'll be dozens
I think the
of
solution is
farm
just to
fresh
start
eggs.
getting chickens. I mean, that a lot of people are
We're
doing
gonna
that. They're
skip
just
the
buying
bourbon
their
and
own
go
chickens.
straight for the eggs.
No,
I was
no,
gonna
my
say that
sister
the
had
one piece of
chickens. That's not
legislation-
easy.
The one piece of legislation that could actually help this is statewide legislation to eliminate local towns banning of letting people have chickens. You don't have to have the 6 a.m. rooster call, but my neighbor actually set up when the pandemic first hit a really nice little chicken thing. And then one of the other neighbors called and he had to, you know, send them off to some other farm
No,
because
you can't keep chickens in your backyard. Plus, there's all manner of, my sister spent all this money, you know, building a coop and everything. She's got plenty of acreage. And then an animal just came and ate her chickens and roosters. And that was the end of that. I mean, that's a pretty expensive deal.
In
Well,
Toronto,
I'm
you can
sorry.
actually
Got to be
raise
smarter than the
chickens.
possum.
You can actually raise chickens in your backyard in Toronto. It's been actually a rule, a thing you're allowed to do over the last few years. But if I say one thing before we go, I think, you know, you talk about bacon. I think another issue you should be watching is the price of beef and veal. Now, beef and veal has actually come down significantly. I think it's down about 5% year over year. But I've spoken to a lot of industry observers, and they make the case that the reason why it has fallen is because a lot of these ranchers, they've killed their cattle prematurely because they can't afford to raise them because of the high cost of water, high cost of diesel, all this stuff that's contributed to the problem. So now you're going to have an issue heading into 2024 is that there's still not enough, there's not going to be enough supply to keep up with the growing demand that there's going to be for beef because the price has come down. So it's going to be a cyclical event where, you know, in the next couple of years, beef is going to go up yet again, maybe not to the extent it was a year ago when it was up, you know, 30%, but perhaps it'll be up again about 10%. And also when you think about inflation too, I mean, yeah, the price of let's say, you know, bacon or something has fallen 1% year over year, but it doesn't take into fact that the prices have increased dramatically since the pandemic level. And will it fall back to pre-pandemic levels?
Right.
Most unlikely.
Well, not everyone has the luxury of living next door to a coop of laying hens, and wouldn't that be nice? But in the meantime, add a bit of cream and scramble those yolks well for better coverage, at least according to Sarah Calgill. Half of this panel, or perhaps all of them, can't abide by the royals, let alone the former royals, or in the middle of the royals, I don't know. But today, we're going to poke fun at Harry and Meghan in a game called He Said, She Said, in this week's edition of Just for Fun. Okay, folks, I am going to read a recent statement, and our lovely contestants will choose whether it was Harry or Meghan who uttered such idiocracy. Are you guys ready?
As I'm
Sure.
going to be.
Is there who
Okay.
cares?
Nobody.
You guys are looking real serious and real scared. Okay, Scott, I'm going to go with you first. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Number one, baby.
Who said this statement? If it didn't work out, we would be willing to relinquish our Sussex titles if need be. That was the plan. Who said
Harry.
that, Harry or Meghan?
Prince Harry.
Prince Harry, you are correct, sir. What made you discern that answer?
You know, she's grandiose and puts herself above, but that's a statement of a royal, not a statement of social climbing,
It's a
whatever.
Okay.
the royal that's been neutered.
I think we have a royal expert in the expert in the house. I think
There
Scott
we
is now
go.
a royal family correspondent.
Oh boy.
Jeff, since he took your number, do you want 2, 3, 4, or 5?
Let's do 5.
The best.
You read my mind.
Quote, I suggested we up the stakes. How about a game of strip pool? Do.
That's got to be Megan.
That is Harry. Harry
Oh,
said,
that was that royal statement being made.
yeah.
Uh,
I tell you, one of the best headlines I've ever seen is it was in the New York Post the other day, and it said his new book is called Spare, and the headline was "Spare Us."
Yeah.
but really, if I'm just going to make this point, all of these things are going to be Meghan because Prince Harry doesn't say anything without her permission. So technically, it is her saying it.
I was waiting for something like that.
The
Okay,
best-
Andrew.
the only good thing about these royals that ever was their formality and they would shut up about things. And they've ruined that. Like it was the one thing we had left.
They
They
keep
killed it.
They don't want any press. So they've done a 6-part series, and Oprah Winfrey, and now a book.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like incessant seeking of media attention. But all right, Andrew, go. You get 2, 3, or 4.
Number 3, please.
Oh, this is interesting that you picked this one of all people. Quote, how can you really describe light? Even Einstein had a problem with that one, unquote.
Meghan Markle.
And that was Harry.
Oh my God! Because she's always trying to sound intelligent. So I thought,
Yeah, I know. I thought that was
She's
a hard
dropping
one.
Einstein's name.
Yeah, that was really interesting. He was just trying to describe his mother. How can you really describe light? Very
Oh.
interesting. Okay, Sarah Girl, 2 or 4.
2.
Quote, with fame comes opportunity, but it also includes responsibility to advocate and share, to focus less on glass slippers and more on pushing through glass ceilings.
Oh, that's that
That'd be
doofus
really-
Magoo.
Ugh.
Or just Megan. We'll just go with Megan.
Megan is correct. You are
Yeah,
right.
they had
And
Megan written all over it.
She just lifts you up with her words, doesn't she?
Glass slippers.
okay, so 2 of you got it right? It was Scott and Sarah. Is that right?
So far.
I did get mine right. Yes.
Okay, so now you got to flip for who gets the last one because I can't have it because I'm reading them.
Pick one, Scott.
I'll take it.
Okay, Scott's got
I've
it.
got a keen ear for these folks.
Or we could just
Okay.
do a he said, she said lightning round.
All right.
Whoever
Well,
gets it
yeah.
first.
Okay. Well, how about you guys both go on this one? Number
Okay.
4. If there was are you ready? Are you listening?
Yes.
Okay. Quote,
Gladiator ready.
if there was a wrong, if there was a lack of justice, if there was an inequality, then someone needs to say something. And why not me?
Harry.
God.
Megan.
Sarah is correct.
I knew that was Megan. I remember her saying that.
That was Megan. Excellent.
How about Harry talking about where he said that he was raised to provide organs for his brother? How about that? How about that quote? Or he talked about someone put cream on his private parts and then it smelled like his mother. Apparently,
What?
Oh my goodness.
Thank
Okay,
you for bringing that up, Andrew.
I don't know
I
any of
thought we were going to be able to
You know, I
escape
don't
the
like these
segment
people
without
anyway,
mention
but
of it,
gosh.
If
or
we
or his
weren't banned
virginity,
on-
or any of the other more details that make your eyes want to just believe.
If we weren't banned before, we're definitely going to be banned now. All right,
By Harry
guys.
and Megan.
Any final words about Harry and Meghan? Are they desperately seeking something?
They need to move to Canada. That's my final.
We fought a war to separate ourselves from these people.
Amen to that. Montecito is probably running hot and heavy. All right. Well, who knows why Americans are fascinated with this particular monarchy? But as I assumed, our panel is not part of that fan base, considering everybody got everything wrong pretty much. Thanks for watching, and we hope you had more fun than Scott did. Bye. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank Diorio, and our executive producer, Sarah Calgill. I'm Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief. Thanks so much for joining us today. This has been a production of LibertyNation.com, where truth is making a comeback.